are able to.
Okay.
You can stay on.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm recording it so that we can stay together. So the first step when we are looking at simplifying, what kind of expression is this? Trinomial, is to look and see if we have any common factors, right? The greatest common factor. 1, and that's not going to help us, is it? So if you will, look at, and I'll email this sheet to you ladies that don't have it. Look at the, I think it's the bottom of the first page of the sheet that I gave you. Let's see. It's the bottom of the second page because I was hole punched it the wrong way. So we are going to factor, let me pull it up on the screen so the ladies can see it.
I just dropped my computer.
I just dropped my computer.
It fell.
Are you still drawing again?
No, I am at the office now. I'm trying to get on it on my computer because I can't really hear you very well, so I'm working on it.
Oh.
I don't know if it's going to work because now my computer's being crazy.
Crazy.
Okay, Kaylee just texted me and told me and asked me to ask you if you would let her in the Zoom that she's in like the waiting room.
Who?
Kaylee.
Kaylee's in the waiting room.
All right, there we go.
Hey, Kaylee. Oh.
Hang on.
Curious.
Yeah, for real. Really? I can take brownies next very good.
All right, so let's look. Ladies, like I said, I'll email this to you. But I wanted to put it on the screen so you could at least see it. So we are going to factor trinomials by grouping. So this is trinomials. And you know that a trinomial has how many terms?
3.
And how we can do this is we can substitute the middle term and that's the term with the x, just the x, with an equivalent expression. So before we apply this to our bell ringers, let's do this example. So you know yesterday when we were having to plug and chug, and do trial and error to solve the or to factor the expressions that had the a that was greater than 1. This is a way that will always work. This is a way that will always work. And I think this is why I'm not going to collect your homework, is because I think this will help you. Because I had some text last night that was like, I don't even know where to go. And so that's when that is a formative assessment. That's telling me that we need more of a support, which there's nothing wrong with, because I can teach you a new trick. Okay. So the first step, what is the standard form of a quadratic?
Hang on. AX squared plus B plus X plus C.
Exactly.
Yes.
So our very first step here is to identify, in this example, 6x plus x minus 2, a, b, and c. What is a?
6 X squared.
So 6. Is the x squared is the variable. What is b? 1. And what is c?
2. Negative 2.
Negative 2. So we have our a, b, and c. And now if you flip over, we are going to multiply. We are going to multiply a and c.
So it's negative 2.
So a is 6, b is 1, c is negative 2. So we're going to multiply 6 and negative 2. And what do we get? Negative 12. So now we're looking for factors of 12, negative 12. That'll give us 1. So negative 3. And positive 4 will give us, when we add them together, so then 1 is equal to 4x minus 3x.
Miss Harrison, can you come let my computer in the Zoom? Because I can't really hear you on my phone.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So like I would do the like this plus sign, say you got like it's a completely different problem and 3 or something. You can put the 3 for the x and then do that problem. Okay.
So now we're going to use these x's and substitute it for the 1x. So 6x squared plus x minus 2 is equal to 6x squared. This is just the original that we started with. Plus 4x minus 3x minus 2. So what did we do? We just broke apart, we substituted that middle term. That's all we did, is we tried to see what are the factors when we multiplied a and c. We got 12. What are the factors of 12 that will equal the 1x? Krista, are you looking? Ladies?
Wait.
Bueno.
Somebody say no.
Okay.
Good.
Kelly, is this better?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So now we're going to factor using a procedure that we call grouping. So we kind of draw a line, an imaginary line right here between the two. And we say 6x squared plus 4x. And then over here, still the same thing, but we're beginning to look at them separately. 3x minus 2.
And
Now-
why are we doing that? Why are we looking at this separately?
So that we can factor it easier. So now that we have these two pieces, we've grouped them together, is there a greatest common factor here? To what? 2x. So we can factor out that 2x. So once we factor out the 2x, we are left with, just coming straight over here, 2x times, what do we have to multiply 2x by to get 6x squared? 3x plus what? 3x plus 2. But we still have this piece that we've got to include here.
And what about the, also on every single problem that we do like this, are we gonna separate the two terms that we came up with? Like,
Yes. And so what did you notice, Kristen?
Right, and the one we just factored out and did is the same thing as over there, just like the positive there.
So how can we make this the same as that? How can we change a negative to a positive?
multiply by 1, but and then multiply by 1.
Multiply it by a negative 1. So we're going to factor out that negative 1. All right?
The negative side on the outside.
Yes. So we are going to factor out that negative 1, and when we take 3x minus 2, negative 3x minus 2, and we factor out a negative 1, then what are we left with in the parentheses?
3x plus 2.
3x plus 2. So now we have this component, 3x plus 2, and then these two, times 2x minus 1. And that's it.
I'm confused. Where 2x minus 1?
It's,
Right here, what we factored out.
so you want to put the second term first?
Because of the commutative property of addition doesn't matter. I mean multiplication. It doesn't matter. So you could put this term first.
I was meaning like 2x minus 1, it's gonna be that way and not negative 1 plus 2.
No, you want your variable first.
I saw the arrow, I forgot it was the first one.
Yeah, just telling you where I went.
That's why I thought it was supposed to, I thought the 2x was going from the second term for second.
Easier?
Yes.
So now let's look at the bell ringer. Did I hear moaning?
Because I do not understand the belly at first.
So if we walk through the bell ringer doing the exact same thing, the very first thing we do
It's fine, A, B, and C.
is find A, B, and C. So 4x squared minus x minus 14.
So 4, -1, and -14.
So A is 4, B is -1, C is -14. So then you're going to multiply A times C. That's 4 times -14.
-56.
-56. So now you're looking for
Factors of -56.
that's going to equal -1.
7, -7, no, it's +7, -8.
No. And then you substitute. You've got 4x squared minus 8. Why did I do minus 8 there?
Good question.
So
The bigger number?
not always. So I've got a 4x squared here. If I put 7 in here, would I have a greatest common factor? No. So I chose the 8 because I want that greatest common factor. If I put my 8x with the 14, would I have a greatest common factor? 8 and 14, you would have 2. But don't I get a bigger greatest common factor if I group the 7 and the 14? Yeah. So you want to group them in a manner that will give you the greatest common factor.
And I'm confused of why we write out that equation and we put 8x and or -8x and 7x in the middle. Like,
Because we're trying to group them apart. And so we need 2 terms
in the middle.
in the middle.
Okay.
So now we're going to factor out our greatest common factor. 4x squared minus 8. What is the greatest common factor?
4x.
4x. And what's left?
-2.
Y'all agree?
You wouldn't put the x on 2 because then it would be squared, right? That's why you wrote the first x.
Correct. It's 4x times x is what?
Why wouldn't it just be -2x though?
Because
Because-
there's 2 x's and it has to be squared. X times x is x squared.
Okay, I'm not convinced.
I think so. I mean, this is only the second problem like this, so I'll give it.
Okay, so let's look. What is 4x times x?
4x squared.
What is 4x times 2? -2.
-8. Okay, yeah, I got it.
So now, what is the greatest common factor in the second grouping?
7.
So we are going to factor out a +7.
And then it would be x times 2.
Why did I do a +7? Last time we did a -1. Why did I do a +7?
Because
It's positive already.
Because the negative equation is a plus sign in between the negative.
Because you want these two to be the same. If these two are not the same, then grouping is not going to work. But I told you that this will work every time You just have to manipulate it so that what's inside the parentheses of both sides is the same. So now what's the solution?
4x plus 7.
Yeah, this is easier than whatever we did yesterday.
A lot better than the trial and error, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This will work every time.
Okay, and what's the difference between the problems? Because there were two factor completely on the over here. One was solved.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. See, I just used it to start getting your brain thinking about what's the difference. So you tried.
Oh gosh.
Clean page. Oh, never mind. Bless you. You try number 2.
Take 4.
Oh crap. I think the only part that's gonna get me is trying to find the two numbers that go into that too for the D.
17. 17.
You can use your calculators on your Chromebook.
Thirty and 4. 30 times 4. Negative 3 and negative 4.
Oh. I mean, I really have that written down. I just did not. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's not. Good. All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Explaining. Y'all are getting personal space. Make sure you got your mask.
So how would you please do it? No, this should be. So if I just say
We've got teaching going on in here, but Macy and Emma are not masked up.
So then all I have to do is.
Meetings are always together outside of school. So
How dare they?
What'd you say?
How dare they make
I
them
know,
do
right?
that?
None of y'all are all boring. Y'all don't even have y'all's screens on. We just want to see your beautiful faces.
I haven't even brushed my hair this morning. I woke up at 7:50 to get to this Zoom at 8.
Well, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, yesterday my alarm didn't go off, and then I forgot that math was like a class that I had.
Okay, so tell me, what's your first step? A is equal to
20.
B is equal to,
-34.
and C?
6.
What was your first step after you did that?
Multiply 20 and 6.
So we're gonna multiply A times C, which is 20 times 6, and you get what? 120. So then, you're looking for factors of 120 that's gonna equal what?
30, -34. So
Negative 34.
-30. -4.
So negative 30 times negative 4 gives you what?
-30. No, 120.
Positive 120.
I was thinking plus.
And then when you add negative 30 plus negative 4, you get the negative 34. So how are we going to group them?
20 2y squared minus 30y minus 4y plus 6.
So let's factor this one first.
10, get rid of both of them, so 10y, parentheses, 2y minus 3, parentheses.
Now, since we've got 2y minus 3 right here,
It's going to have to be a negative 2.
we know we want 2y minus 3 here.
So negative 2.
So what do we multiply by a negative 4y to get a positive 2y?
Negative 2.
What do we multiply by a negative 3 to get a positive 6?
Negative 2.
So then we have 10y minus 2 times 2y minus 3.
Casey, I have that. That's what I have. I do 2y minus 3 and then 10y minus 7 is 2x plus 6. This is the solve by factors.
Oh. Well,
Please don't stress Krista out.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. I was like, oh.
Are y'all feeling much better now?
Yes.
Do you like factoring by grouping?
Yes, I like having a formula and steps to follow. I
That
don't
way I
just
know
like
it's
it having
kind of like just a
yeah, yesterday was just like
blank.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, 'cause
It's like filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
trial and error, you do have to, just plug and chug. And the more that you do it, the more you're going to get used to guessing close to the answer. But even though I've been doing math forever, I still don't hit it right on target every time. It takes practice. But this way will always work. It will even work when A is 1. If you multiply A times C and then look at the factors that you can add together, it'll even work when A is 1. Okay, so you're going to be able to go back for your homework and work on based upon what we've learned today on grouping, but we're going to add to it. Go ahead and one. But it's not going to be a bad addition. It's not going to be a bad addition. I promise. It's almost like a review of Algebra 1. Okay, so our last bell ringer, which is actually just an activator, is 2x squared plus x is equal to 2x plus 6. 2x squared.
Oh wait, I think we are.
Oh, yay.
Because it says it's equal. Like I remember.
So now that I put it equal to something, it's no longer an expression, it's what?
Yes.
An equation because it's got the equal sign. So up until this point, we couldn't solve anything. All we could do is factor because it was just an expression. Now it's an equation, so we can
Now that you
solve.
put like the two x's to get the x's on the same side, and then you will put the whatever x equals to 6, and then you divide it, and then you get x equals whatever.
Almost. So we're looking for 0. So what do you think we want the right side to be? 0. So we're going to move all of this over here so that we can have 0. So how do we get rid of that negative 2 or that positive 2? So subtract 2. How do we get rid of that positive 6? Minus 6. So when we do that, we've got 2x and we've got plus x. Whatever we do to one side, we got to do the other. So we're going to minus 2x minus 6. So x minus 2x is what? Negative x. And then we have nothing, not another number to subtract 6 from. So it's just negative 6. And then what are we left with on the right side?
0.
0. Now what do we do? Factor. So now we factor.
Oh gosh.
And you can do this again, A times C. What is A?
Oh,
You let me forget that x squared. Y'all gotta keep me honest. I didn't get that.
so 2 and 1 is 6.
So you got 2 times a -6, that's -12. What are the factors of -12 that's going to give you a -1? So -4 and 3. So then you're going to say 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6 group them together by factoring out the greatest common factor. So once you factor out the first 2 terms, to what? And that leaves you with what here?
X minus 2,
What did you factor out here?
3.
So a positive 3?
Yes.
And that leaves you with what?
X minus 2.
So what are,
Boy. X minus 2 and 2x plus 3.
equals 0.
0.
Are we done?
Yes.
No.
No. Gosh.
So now we have x minus 2 times 2x, what was that other one? Plus 3 equals 0. We're going to break it apart because it's a parabola. It's a quadratic. What is the degree? What's the degree of a quadratic? 2. So how many solutions is it going to have? 2. So we have to break these 2 apart. We don't know which one of these are actually 0 because if this times this equals 0, that tells us that either this has to equal 0 or that has to equal 0. And we don't know which one. Isaac, are you having a revelation?
For 0.
We don't know which one. And so we have to say x minus 2 equals 0 and solve for x. 2x plus 3 equals 0 and solve for x.
Oh my gosh. Wait, why don't we just do plus 2?
What's this one?
Oh wait, it'd be 2x equals 3. Why are you putting negative 3?
Because you have to minus that.
Plus
Oh
3.
yeah, the.
That's easy.
I have to go and check it. I have to plug it back in.
Plug it back in. There's another way.
Calculator.
Desmos calculator. Yep. You have a graphing calculator. You could do a graph of it or Desmos. Does anybody in here have a Android phone? Well, okay. So do you know about Wabbit? I had it written on the board. I think it's Wabbit EMU. It is the actual, is an app, and it's the actual TI-84 calculator. So, iPhone has several of them, but most of the time they want you to pay for it. but they're not, there is a couple of free ones that are not 100% TI-84. Okay, so now, are the moaning and groaning gone? Better? Give me a thumbs up if you're feeling a lot better. All right, good. So let's go back, if we can. Let's go back to your packet.
Oh, yeah. What do we do with these dotted notes? Just keep them.
Put them in your packet in this order so that you can find it.
Wait, hang on. Neither of those equaled 0.
Hang on, Amber has a question. What, Amber?
Neither of those equaled 0. One of them equaled 2 and one of them equaled -1/2.
Yeah, I know, that's what they're supposed to be.
But it's all supposed to come together and equal 0. Oh, because 2 okay, never mind.
So just
I
put
get it. I get it now.
Yes, ma'am. You're good, Amber?
Yes, ma'am. I understand now. It makes, yeah.
We're reading the homework.
so the homework last night is now a homework again tonight.
And we're gonna have a little. All right, so the last thing that we really need to look at in factoring before we launch full head-on into solving by factoring is we need to look at this difference of squares. Remember yesterday we talked about the a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. Thank you. So basically, when you see the difference of squares, this is all you need to do. When you don't have that middle term. So your first step, I don't have a middle term. Second step, it's a minus. So it is the difference of squares. So if you don't have a middle term and it's a minus, then you know you've got this situation. This is just something you're going to have to memorize. It's going to come back over and over and over again, especially in unit, I believe it's unit 2 and unit 4. Okay, so we've got x squared is our a, and it's actually a squared, and b squared is equal to what? You omit the negative. You omit the negative because that's the formula. So 4. And so the way that you solve these is you simply take the square root, and then you have a is equal to what? X. B is equal to 2. And so your solution is x plus 2, x minus 2.
That's so easy. Wait, but the only part is, how do you know to omit the negative? Like, what tells me to do that?
Because this is the format. If you have a perfect square minus a perfect square, then you know it's going to be this way. And if you put the negative under the square root, then you're going to go into imaginary numbers.
So if it's a positive, does it need to be a negative?
So if it's a positive, that's a different format. And we'll deal with that later.
But all of these are just going to be minus, so you know to take away the minus.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Better?
Then that's fine, yes.
So what's the square root of 9x squared?
3x. No, just 3.
So we've got 3x plus, what's the square root of 25y to the 4?
Ooh, 5.
So then it's 3x plus minus.
And that's it.
That's it.
Wait, what about the one where it's like m squared n squared?
Right here.
Yeah.
So that would be, what's the square root of m squared?
Just n.
What's the square root of n squared?
Oh, just n.
What's the square root of 49?
So it's the 7. Wouldn't it be plus 7? Okay, yeah, this we can get something harder. This is a piece of crap.
What about this one?
There's no square root. Ooh,
You asked for harder.
dang it. And that's what he told me. I thought they were already 1 minus 9. I thought they were all going to be easy.
All right. Call it out to me.
72r minus 2s.
Okay. So 72 is not a perfect square. But can we take the square root of it? Yes.
To be a decimal, but
Or a fraction.
Or we keep it in the square root form, which is what you want to do. So what are the factors? You're looking for the greatest perfect square that will go into 72.
8 and
So if you've got 8 and 9, can we break 8 down more to include a perfect square? So 2 and 4. So you have a perfect square here, and it's, what's the square root of 9? 3. Times, you've got a perfect square here,
2.
2. And then what's left inside the square root house? 4. We dealt with this one. We dealt with that one. Because basically, we're just breaking this 72 apart. So we're saying that 9 times 4 times 2. Think about your grouping. This is the same thing because the properties of multiplication, this is all the same thing. Do you agree? What property is that?
distributed.
Associative. So then the square root of this is 3. The square root of that is 2 times the square root of 2. So how do you simplify this?
I guess you put that in the calculator.
6 times the square root of 2. So this is, we just dealt with the 72. So the 72 we're done with. It must not want to be read today. Okay. So we've got, we know that part of it is 6 times the square root of 2. What's the square root of r squared? I mean r to the 6th.
R to the 3rd.
And then we've got minus something, and then 6 times the square root of 2 plus something. Now we've got to deal with this one. Can we simplify that at
Don't
all?
forget the R squared.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
R cubed. Thank you, thank you. So now, can we simplify 2?
we just do 1.
So is 1 times 1 2? So we've got 2s squared. We've got to take the square root of it. What is the square root of 2x squared? The square root of 2 times what? Yes. So you want to keep these things in radical form. So that wasn't too hard. You just had to think a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You had to recall some of that simplifying radicals from Algebra 1, right?
I do not remember learning this in Algebra 1, but
We made those posters around it, and then we got thrown away.
It's on the
I
homework.
remember looking at the main game. All we did was
26 squared, 40, like,
I'll go with it.
And we have to work with 1.
All right, Isaac has a question on the floor. So what number is this on homework?
number 8.
On page what, Isaac? 6?
6.
Page 6. And if you will, call it out to me.
20c squared
20c squared
and negative 45.
minus
45.
d as in dog squared.
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at it. We've got the square root of 20c squared. We know what the square root of c squared is, right? It's just c. So it's going to be c times the square root of 20. Break it apart. You're looking for the greatest perfect square. What's the greatest perfect square that'll go into 20?
10. Oh, 4.
4 and 5. So if you take the square root of 4 and 5, so the square root of 4 times the square root of 5, that equals the square root of 20. But you can simplify it more now when you break it apart. So now what is the square root of 4?
2.
So you've got 2c times the square root of 5. That deals with the first term. Now you have to take the square root of 45 d squared. So you know that the square root of d squared is what? So this is going to be d times something. How do you simplify 45? Looking for the greatest perfect square. 9 and 5. So what's the square root of 9? So this is 3d times the square root of 5. So then when you put it back into your difference of squares factors, you've got 2c times the square root of 5 plus 3d times the square root of 5. And then you've got 2c times the square root of 5 minus 3d times the square root of 5.
Sorry.
Okay, so here's another question. Do you have a greatest common factor that you could factor out in there? They are all being multiplied by the square root of 5. So could you take the square root of 5 out? And what would that leave you here?
2c plus 3d.
If you took it out here, Because I agree. Who said they don't like this?
I didn't say.
Oh, I agree with
Yeah, it looks nasty. So why can't, if we have a square root of 5 in all of our terms, why can't we just factor it out? We can only have one square root of 5.
We can, girl.
All right. Kind of like my daughter-in-law last night. So I live in Mentone, Alabama. Do y'all know where Mentone is?
My ex-boyfriend lives.
So I live in Mentone, and the closest grocery store to us is Lucky's, which is right down the mountain in Menlo, Georgia. And right now, my oldest son, daughter-in-law, and their 3 children are living with us until their rental house gets ready. Okay, so that means that we have 8 humans and 5 dogs and 3 cats. We have a 100% zoo. So I sent my oldest son to the grocery store yesterday to get some stuff I needed for supper.
Is that the grocery store that's like kind of little? It's not really.
It's called Lucky's.
Oh, yeah. I used to go
And so I sent him down to Lucky's. And while he was at Lucky's, he decided he needed to try to get lucky and buy a scratch-off lottery ticket. Miss Harrison is completely and totally risk-averse. I don't do lottery. I don't do gambling because I feel like it says, here, just take my money. Here, just take my money. Please take my money. I would much rather give it to somebody than to play all these things. But anyways, so he doesn't win. And my daughter-in-law says, well, if he would have won, we would have bought 10 acres so that we could all live on the same property. Sometimes that's a good thing, right, Macy? Macy's going, mm-hmm. Emily's going, mm-mm. So it was kind of funny, but that's what I think about with all these houses, all these square root houses.
I was kind of wondering where you were going with that story because it was just so random.
These square root houses are crowding, right? That's a whole bunch of houses together. We need to spread it out. So if we can consolidate that house with just the one square root house of 5 on the outside, isn't this a lot cleaner neighborhood? Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Isaac, did that answer your question? Perfect. Any other questions on the floor?
Brain break, brain break.
Brain break, brain break. My little cheerleader.
Oh, I was until I came to high school. They ain't it.
So we only have about 13 minutes left.
So break.
Negative.
Work on homework.
I want to look at these certain problems first, because this is going to be added to your homework today. So we did the square roots, even when we had to do square root house. Your B would remain in the square root house.
Wait, where is this at?
Page
It's the one we didn't do. Oh, I think I already did that.
So your B would remain in the square root house.
Oh, no, I didn't do that one. It's just that.
Okay, so.
You want to do it together?
You go like this last one, we have 6 square root over 2, R to the third, it would be basically 32.
So this, looking at this, take the square root of it. What's the only perfect square that can come out? A squared. Do you agree, Krista? So you're going to have A times the square root of 2B. Then with your 32, a to the fourth b. This thing's hideous. I'm telling you, it's giving me a very small. I'm gonna go to the document. Okay, so call it out to me again, please.
2a squared minus, no, 2a squared b minus 32a to the 4b.
And this is number 24,
26.
26 on page 4, right? So we've already said that when we take the square root of 2a squared b, the only thing that we can bring out is a, and we have to leave in the 2b. When we take the square root of 32, but we leave the negative out because we know it's our format. So 32ab, a to the fourth b. A to the fourth is a perfect square. What can we pull out? So a squared. But we still have 32b. With 32b, we want to break that 32 up into the largest perfect square. Yes. So this is basically the square root of 2 times the square root of 16 times the square root of 8. What is the square root of 16?
4.
So we've got 4a squared times what's left? 2b. So we've got a times the square root of 2b minus 4a squared times the square root of 2b. You can. So that's the first piece. And the second piece is what? Because we got to have our additional one. A times the square root of 2b plus 4a squared times the square root of 2b. And now you can factor out the 2b. So when we factor out the 2b, what's left in the first parentheses? A minus. And then what's left on the second set of parentheses?
I know.
Can we simplify anything else?
I'm guessing since you asked that.
You can simplify the a. So if we pull a out of that first one, it's going to be what? What times a equals a? Huh? 1 minus what?
Minus 4.
And then that would be 1 plus 4a. And to write it properly, we would say a times the square root of 2b times 1 minus 4a is 1 plus 4a. Good?
For the 90% less confused than I left yesterday.
Woohoo! Then give yourself some applause.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Good job. Give your ladies applause over there. All right, so did I take my pen with me? Probably. Let's go ahead and give you your closing.
What's the rest of our homework?
Go.
I want to make sure. I'm sorry.
Already had it built in.
It's 8:19 today.
No, it's 8:20. That slide didn't change. How many of y'all had fun today?
Did you have fun with us?
I sure did. Anytime we're able to clear up confusion, makes me very happy. Two-buck summary, complete sentences explaining how to solve the quadratics by factoring, and then we'll place it in the dirty materials bucket upon departure. There's your homework for today, ladies. How do y'all feel?
Let's
That's
finish
just
our
our
homework
homework.
Good.
Two-buck
I'm not
summary.
turning my over here because all my notes are on that.
Yeah, just do me a two-buck summary and leave it with me.
Yeah, I feel good.
Haley, is this better?
Yes, ma'am.
McKenna?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome, awesome.
So this is our homework for today.
Yeah, I want you to go back and correct or clarify any homework that you had yesterday, since there was a lot of confusion. And then this is your new homework. Ladies, will you email me your two-buck summary, please?
Yes, ma'am. I forgot to yesterday. I have it drafted though, so I'll have to send that in a little bit.
That'll be perfect. And
Ah.
I don't know if y'all saw, but y'all made the social media page. Did y'all see that?
Yes, ma'am. We got an email. I think everyone got the email.
Woohoo! Excellent.
My vote and my closing.
All right, we'll bring 3 minutes left in class, and you know what to do.
If you're okay with that.
Yeah, I didn't put any notes on there.
Okay,
I just worked out my comment.
perfect, perfect. Everybody has a textbook, right? There's somebody in this class I need to issue a textbook.
Oh, actually, I turned mine into the front office when I was gonna go virtual.
Tell me you need it back.
They didn't give it to you, they didn't put it in the box.
I don't have it yet.
Oh,
I can go back and look and see what number you have,
okay.
but nobody's given me one, so.
I believe that's it. If it makes sense to me, then that's right? Right. Yeah, I didn't know.
I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all of your hard work. Y'all did excellent today. I hope that you enjoy the grouping method. It's kind of like a puzzle. but it's all about math, and so that's really exciting to me. So ladies, since you don't have to clean your desks, I'll say goodbye. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Bye.
Thank you for your dedication. Y'all did great.
Have a good day.
Same to you. Can't wait to see you all.